It's a bit of a different topic for the channel today. It's Pride Month, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what this month means to me as a queer person living in the UK. And it's not really something that I've chosen to talk about before because I don't really feel that it's actually relevant to what I do. So if you're someone who's been on my channel before, you'll know that what I really do and what I'm all about is all of this. It's getting outside into nature and expressing yourself in some sort of creative way. That's kind of what this channel is all about and what my message in the world is all about. So we're going to go for a different kind of Pride March today. I'm going to take you on my usual lonely walk, and I'm just going to have an honest conversation with you guys along the way. So if you're not put off by sort of LGBT and political topics, then maybe join me. And if you are, then there's loads of other videos on this channel for you to watch. So if I see any kind of horrible comments here, I'm just going to go ahead and hide and delete them. And I would ask my followers not to engage with anybody who is being miserable and divisive in the comments section, as this unfortunately is the kind of topic that may attract those kinds of people. So if you see it, don't worry about it. I'll get round to deleting it real soon. Hope you don't mind me wearing my sunglasses. It's so bright today that I can't actually see. I just go all squinty and look terrible for the camera if I don't have them on. Now, you might kind of wonder why I decided to make this video now, because I've been so kind of quiet on this topic. Because I don't really, as I said earlier, I don't really feel that it actually relates at all to what I do for my job, what this channel is about, and the way that I really want to sort of show up to the people that I'm serving with the content that I make. But at the same time, I kind of have a responsibility to myself to be honest about how things are affecting me right now and what that means for everybody who's kind of along this with me. So there's two reasons why I decided to make this video now. The first one is that things haven't been so great for people like me in the UK recently, and I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how I've been struggling with that, because a lot of what I do in my work is all about connecting people with nature on a kind of a wellness level. And I think if I'm not being honest about how I'm struggling with my kind of mental health and the way that I'm sort of being in the world, I can't be honest about how I'm telling other people to be and engage. So I thought it would be a good time to talk from that level. The other reason is that I'm kind of working towards taking my bodhisattva vows in Buddhism. I think I'm a few years off from doing it. It means that you are trying to show up in service to the world, in service to alleviating the suffering of others. And I think that if I'm still in a place where I've got so much going on internally as a result of all of this stuff with what I'm going to talk about today, it's impossible for me to then go forward in service to other people when I'm still struggling so hard kind of myself. So that's the second reason. Okay, let's start this with a little bit of context about where I sit within the LGBT plus community. So I am a trans man and I am also gay. So I'm sort of the T and the G, as it were. If you include the Q, I'm also identify as queer, so I'm a GTQ. I actually started my transition in 2009 and pretty much completed it as far as I wanted to go with it all in 2013. So I've been transitioned for 11 years, and honestly, it's something that I don't really or never intended to really have to talk about. It's kind of something that I consider to be very much in my past. I would consider myself more a man with transgender history and sort of a transgender present body, but I don't kind of engage heavily with the trans community because I kind of feel like it's something that happened in my past. I'm also gay. I'm exclusively attracted to men. I have a partner who I've been together with for, 13 years. Yeah, so we've been together 13 years. So we're in a pretty steady, stable relationship now. On the queer side, I kind of, although I feel very much like just a guy, just a regular kind of guy, I'm also sort of very aware that there are aspects of my body that are and always will be trans. And coming to terms with that has been part of my healing journey, which I'll get to in a minute. And so it kind of feels like just by the nature of how I am in the world, I'll always be kind of identified with the queer kind of community. And the other thing kind of is that I don't limit myself according to sort of gender in the way that I do things. Like I'm quite happy to go and wear a women's t-shirt. I'm quite happy to do a hobby that primarily attracts women. And in the community that I have on my channel, a lot of my wonderful followers here are women, and I am very happy with that. I don't feel like because I'm a trans man, I need to go heavily in on the masculine stuff. So I kind of, because of that, I sort of feel like, okay, well, yeah, I'm sort of putting myself out there in a world where, despite my trans history, I'm not too worried about gender and who says what I can do and what you can do according to certain roles and expectations. There's a whole load of linnets and rock pipits up there. Hopefully you can hear that. That sounds really nice. So yeah, so that's kind of the quick and easy backstory of who I am and where I am. And it's, like I said, it's not something I talk about very much because I don't really feel that it's relevant. And the only reason that I'm making this video now is that the amount of general nastiness and sort of politicised horribleness in the UK towards transgender people has just got worse and worse. So I felt like, I was done in 2013, things got easier in my life, and I just kind of got on with it for many years and forgot all about it. I wasn't really engaging with that side at all. I was doing my job and then sort of growing this nature journaling business and this thing that I do now, finding out about yoga and Buddhism and exploring how to heal some of the things that have happened in my past. And that's sort of it. That's where I kind of was with everything. And then it got to about 2019, so just before the pandemic. And for some reason, I don't actually know any of why this happened. I know that J.K. Rowling in the UK had a fair amount to do with it, but for some reason it just suddenly became all a big deal. And sort of 2009, 2010, when I first started transitioning, you got a comment occasionally, but no one was outright hostile and horrible to you for the most part. And the internet wasn't this kind of hotbed of anti-woke versus woke culture war nonsense that it is right now. So that just wasn't really happening. And I kind of thought that I'd be able to go through a healing journey with myself, through doing things like nature journaling, meditation and yoga. I thought that I'd be able to very slowly kind of just work on myself, build up my self-esteem and heal from the difficulties of the transition and of that kind of horrendous time trying to identify who I was when I was younger. I kind of thought that would all be over. I could kind of just carry on with my life and slowly heal from those traumas and those sorts of difficult times and just get on with my life. But unfortunately, what happened with all of this sort of political situation right now, in which people are pretty much being asked to defend their identity and who they are quite viciously by people, they're kind of being forced to actually try to validate themselves. And sort of feels, because of that kind of aggressive stance that's now being taken both in the media by some celebrities and politically, it's become very difficult to just kind of get on with things, you know, and just be able to continue that healing journey. I've been put back several years by all of this, this complication, and it's almost come to the point now where it's actually impossible to stay silent and get on with everything as if it's all just not a thing I'm coping with, because of the level of aggression and politicalisation of what people are now calling the trans issue or gender ideology, or all these other kind of names that people have now come up for just existing as a trans person. Like, I can say I've never been an activist. I've been on a Pride March once in my entire life. Like, loads of people in the city, as you can tell, is not really my kind of idea of a great time. So, you know, I'm not really outspoken at all about this. Most of my energies, my sort of rage and fire, as it were, has been reserved for environmental issues, because I think that this is something that is, I'm not going to say more important because that's wrong, more pressing and more worrying to me than personal sort of identity stuff. So it's one of those sort of difficult things to place. Rock pipit again. It's a very difficult thing to kind of to place. It's like, I always wanted to save that energy for protecting the environment. That's why my whole job is trying to help people connect back into nature and to heal through being outdoors and spending time in nature. And that's more important to me than trying to fight a losing battle with people who honestly are just never going to accept that people like me walk the earth. So there's really no point. It felt like there was really no point in trying to engage myself with this particular issue. Another kind of danger, really, I think, is that as soon as you are very in the closet and quiet about something, it is possible to start feeling a bit of a fear about what might happen if you're uncloseted or found out. And it's quite a privilege for a trans person to be able to kind of just quietly blend in. A lot of us actually are unable to do that, and they kind of face nastiness and trial and vile transphobia on a day-to-day basis. But often the way it is for trans men is you go through it and then you just blend in. You're just like any other guy on the street, really. And the danger with that kind of they used to call it stealth. I don't know if they still call it that now. But that kind of mode where you're just sort of pretending that you're a cisgender person, or a person who identifies the same sex that they were born, is that you start to worry about this, about, what might happen if somebody finds me out? And I think that as an online creator who's got an audience and who is kind of growing a lot in my kind of my sphere of what I'm doing, that fear only gets stronger as you grow. So you start to think, they only like me because they don't know, or if they found out, then what might happen? Would I get the same level of kind of transphobia and as other people who are out and loud about it in an online space? Now, I want to reiterate again, I am not an activist and I am not talking about this a lot, which is one of the reasons why it became quite difficult to actually acknowledge it as a major thing in my life. So that's one aspect of it, just trying to kind of be a bit more real so I don't have to fear what happens when I do talk about this. And the second thing is that when you're kind of trying to heal yourself from an issue like very low self-esteem and anxiety, that's kind of another layer that's piled on top of you if you then have that fear about what might happen if you tell someone. So it's kind of taken a lot to just come out in this video and say, yeah, this is kind of what's going on for me. And I did feel like my hand was being forced a little bit by the kind of the politics that's going on in the UK right now. But really, it's mostly just because I think that it's the time for me to start to acknowledge the journey that I have been on, what I have to offer the world as a result of that journey. I think that it has made me a lot more kind of open-minded and empathetic. I am able to see things from lots of points of view because of the way that I've had to live my life, essentially. And that is kind of an asset. And I've spent so many years thinking about what all the negatives are, why it's difficult and why it's, even in my mind, bad, or I felt bad about being a trans man. And it's flipping it around and going, okay, well, what is the good things? What do I have to offer the world as a result of this? And by hiding it, am I then taking away from the things that I do have to offer? So I'm saying this now because I really need to address this fear that I have of being noticed and seen as trans and just generally as different. So there's a favourite folk artist of mine, he's called Beans on Toast, and he has this song called Love Yourself. And in the song there's this lyric, love yourself, you owe it to everybody else. And I don't think that I can live a life in service and kindness if I don't love myself. Pride Month is it's still needed because ordinary people like me are suffering from these sort of mental problems that come from the continuation of messages of hate. We're being dragged down sort of little by little, and the thoughts can start to come in that perhaps we're not of any value after all, and the fragile beginnings of new self-esteem that I'd built over those years has kind of just been gradually eroding away, to the point that some days it's hard to get on with what really matters to me because I have an anxiety about what people are saying and doing to restrict trans rights in my country and in other countries. I would really prefer not to have to talk about this at all. I think that's probably come across in this video, but I'd much rather be talking about something else. And I just had to face it for the reasons that I described earlier. And it's kind of one of those things that Pride Month gave me the opportunity to talk about it, to kind of face up to some of these issues. And perhaps if it wasn't for it being Pride Month, I might have let this go a little bit longer, just kind of carry on as things are. But I've really realised that I can't keep on pretending that everything's okay the way that things are. I mean, there's so many problems in the UK right now. There's like cost of living problems, environmental problems. There's terrible atrocities that are happening across the world, and it just sort of seems a bit crazy that the people in power just want to keep on banging on about trans people all the time. And, you know, everyone's just getting a little bit tired of it, but it doesn't seem to be a thing that is going away. And I'm hoping that eventually we'll just kind of all give up on this discussion and just move on and let people live their lives. But until that day, we are continuing to need pride. So what do you do if you kind of want to help with the situation that we're finding ourselves in the UK? I mean, I'm very grateful for this country for actually letting me get this far, for supporting my transition, and the wonderful doctors and nurses on the NHS that allowed me to actually live my life. But at the same time, things are getting more difficult. It's not kind of the institutions, it's the politics, it's the media, and it's kind of this online culture war thing. It's a combination of all of those. So firstly, what you can do is to vote. I really believe that although the political system is biased and not fantastic, it is one way that we can actually get our voices heard, and by changing the political party in control, we can say that we just don't like the way that things are being done, and we can explain that, through the way that we act and how we talk about and to LGBTQ plus people. Also, you can kind of educate yourself a little bit about these issues. I haven't gone into it much in this video because I don't really feel like it's my place. I don't even have the skills really to try and educate people about being trans. I mean, I can tell you my experience of it, but I think that there's better people out there to do that. I'd rather focus on what I do best, which is nature connection and nature journaling and that side of things. So I've left some links in the description to people if you want to kind of find out a bit more. There's a bunch of videos I've put in there that are really good and really balanced and nice and worthwhile watching if you're interested in this sort of thing. If you kind of liked this sort of walk and discussion type video, I can do more of these. Just let me know in the comments and I'll discuss something. We'll go for a walk and I'll discuss something. Probably not this again, unless somebody's really, really keen that I talk a bit more about this. I'd kind of rather go back to other topics, but I'd like to broaden the channel out and talk about things that are a little bit different, but still kind of keep the outdoor ethos of all of this. So if that's something you'd like to see, then just let me know in the comments. Finally, I'd just say to try and to support people let them know that you care and that you love them and that they're respected and valid to you. And if you see anything on the comments here, I kind of feel like there's two ways that this could go. It could either be like, I put this video out, nobody watches it, it goes into the YouTube backlog and just sort of dies a death somewhere. Or it could be that a lot of people watch it, it attracts people who don't know me and what I'm about, and there's a whole load of drama and, people start to use it against me. More realistically, it'll be somewhere in the middle of that, and I'll try and keep on top of anything negative that comes up. Let's all kind of look after each other here. If you, feel that you don't want to be around anymore, please don't just sort of tell me all about how much you hate me or whatever. Just kind of slowly go away quietly. If, on the other hand, you enjoyed this and want to support me, then yeah, just leave a comment, send me a message, whatever. I probably won't talk about this too much again, so I appreciate you sticking around and listening to it. My camera battery is dying, so I'm kind of having to cut the filming short a little bit. I may fill a few bits out on my phone, so if you saw those, apologies for the difference in audio quality. I will be seeing you all soon. The next video up here is going to be a lot more back in my usual topic. I'm going to be reviewing some water brushes and talking about how we can use these different brands of water brush in our nature journaling. So that's next, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.